I'm going to call to order. Now that Beth has joined us, thank you, Beth. Number 7. Of the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union. It is 6:02. Our first meeting in the Windsor House, very exciting. Changes to the agenda. Katie Ahern could not be here tonight. And what else did you add?
We have some hiring.
We have a hiring today. Yeah. So that will go into the motions for discussion. Okay. Approval of the minutes, April 28th, 2025. I do have to say,
I don't know.
they are well written and concise. I will take a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. They are approved. Moving right on to public participation. Public comment is not legally required, but we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns over issues. Through these meetings, our board models for our students how to conduct public discourse, and that the board and members of our community can approach controversial issues in a civil and constructive manner and can demonstrate mutual respect. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed for discussion. Please start by identifying yourself and what town you reside in. So the floor is open for public comment or participation.
Again. Why does it go up and it's all?
My first comment is Nancy has joined us digitally really quite well this time. Congratulations.
Larry was sitting next to me. He said, turn it
Okay.
down again.
Any announcements from the board?
Oh, let's see. What had that? The prom.
Yeah.
Happened. And then today at Albert Bridge, there was a truck with all the large equipment out. And the wonderful music festival, the bands and stuff. Were you there? I looked for you because sometimes.
Oh, at Windsor?
Yeah.
I made it to the 6 through 12 one.
High school, middle of high school.
Yeah, middle and high school. I didn't make it to the grade school, but yeah, it was amazing.
This was that, yeah.
Yeah, really.
I was very, very impressed with the band. Even though there might be just one instrument on a part, they were obviously musicians. And the music that he chose was quite sophisticated, and it was very, very exciting.
Okay. I don't have anything except that it's been raining, and I hope some of my tomato plants survive.
It's supposed to not be showing.
Public policy discussion. Active hate's our first one. I will take a motion to approve C43, Windsor Southeast Supervisory Active Hate Policy.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? John?
I'd like to just clarify something I made during second reading about First Amendment rights. I'm going to give an extreme example that I had in mind. If the district or the SU employed a person that was part of a hate group, but did not bring that agenda into our environment, then, but it still could trigger complaint from parents. And my feeling would be that that wouldn't fall under our jurisdiction. The hate policy is written, extends beyond the school boundaries. And I don't have any problem with that.
Well, yeah, I think I believe the procedure would clarify that, but if a member of staff has some belief that doesn't impact the educational environment in the process of the school, this policy would not be applicable. Because,
Exactly.
yeah, so that's the piece that, does it disrupt the educational environment? So even if a student has a particular opinion that they expound on, and that opinion doesn't disrupt the educational environment or the educational process, this wouldn't apply either. So it's when those actions disrupt the educational environment. And I don't know if you're aware, John, but there was an incident earlier in the school year that would have defined as an act of hate, and there were consequences for the students, and it severely disrupted the educational safety, the educational well-being, and the educational process of a certain number of students. And that's one reason that this policy has been created. But you're absolutely right. In my reading this again today, we had this done by lawyers. This is not the business policy. It's not a policy that we created. We had a legal team create this, and I have to admit, it is really tight. Any other?
Fine. I just wanted to clarify because I know there was a post from a person that was watching the meeting last time, and I just wanted, if they're watching today, I just wanted to make sure they understood. And I think you explained it perfectly.
Yeah. And so we've had issues with we've had issues with this, and I'm hoping this policy will give administrators the direction needed to better deal with these situations, and also to give us clarity of when the school can and can't intervene. Is there any other discussion? Thank you, John. Okay. We're going to take let's just call it when we ask people to vote. It is a straw poll.
Roll call.
Roll call. Okay. Heather here? No. Nicole here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's in person.
Oh, my goodness, I'm right in front of you. Nicole, how do you vote?
Step right in.
Like a ninja. Beth?
Aye.
Anne Marie? No. Okay. John?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Nancy?
Hi.
Elizabeth?
I'm sorry, Bill, but what are we voting on?
Oh, the policy, active hate, C-43,
Why are we voting on this now?
because this is the third reading.
I know, but we're not going to do the rest of the meeting first? Aye.
This is policy discussion comes after public participation.
Okay, sorry.
Yep,
Aye.
okay. About, Megan,
Aye.
okay, and Nancy.
Aye again.
But Amy's not here. Okay. Okay, and I am an aye. I got distracted.
By the surprise.
Yeah, no, about 6 months ago, I flipped things around.
Beginning of the year.
Beginning of the year, yeah.
Your goals, yeah.
Okay, D4, Title I comparability. This is the second reading. I have to admit, I'm still rather confused by it, but we have Angie here.
Miss Ledoux here to explain
Maybe she
away.
can explain.
And I have it as part of my presentation
Okay,
I have examples. So I don't know if you want to, how you want to handle that. I can certainly
well, we can
show some slides.
We can wait to clarify, but at this point, does anyone have any specific questions for regarding this policy? So maybe when Angie comes to her presentation, she will be more aware. I'm still confused about the policy requiring Title I services in non-Title I schools if
Yes.
one, so.
I think my presentation will clarify, but something you need to know right away is that ABS is not included because they have less than 100 students. So they're not included in the comparability calculation.
Okay,
And that might help because then our other 3 schools are Title I schools.
okay,
I guess
yes.
my question is,
Oh.
are we talking about the supervisory union or are we talking about the school districts?
We're
It's,
talking about the school buildings.
Right, but who's the overarching entity? Who's qualifying? And so I read it as the districts, and so Heartland doesn't have any other buildings.
Yeah.
No, it's the
Montesquieu's the
LEA.
only,
It's the LEA.
so
SU.
so the SU. So if
Yeah.
one school in the SU qualifies, all the other schools have to behave the same.
no.
No.
Yeah.
It will become
Okay.
clear when, because it's not,
Because it's clear as
you might be
mud right
thinking
now.
everybody and it's not everybody's I think I'll clarify it.
Well,
I got one.
I looked up data.
One easy thing is a comma after a space after the word Escutney.
You go.
And then I have another question, but I'm assuming it will be answered in your
Yeah.
presentation. So, and we got one more reading of this, so I'm not too.
Elizabeth?
Thanks, Bill. I wondered whether it would be possible to push this until after Angie's presentation and then vote on it.
We're not.
We're not gonna vote today. This is the second reading. So
Okay.
I thought we would open it up for discussion so we can ask our questions and get them out and,
Just for fun, I can throw my question out because it's very simple and you can just tell me whether it will be addressed. I think and it's my question I had last time, just the use of the word district in this document
That's what I was saying.
does it refer, because I've seen it interchangeably used because the SU owns Title I like stuff. When it says district in here, I'm assuming it means the SU.
In that second school district, the Title I funds, the school district in which the school is located shall provide comparable services. They're saying supervisory union.
Okay.
That's interchangeable with supervisory union.
Okay.
And you could change that language if it
I think
makes
we should change
I
that.
think we should change it because we have those 2 levels separate
And
here.
the supervisory union is responsible for providing evidence to the state
Yeah.
that we are within the comparability range.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
You decided to was talking to Larry, can you circle where your suggestion was on this one?
any other discussion? I have to say I look forward to Angie's explanation. D5, animal dissection.
Man, I'm at a
Any
meeting.
discussion?
Hello, I'm at a meeting.
I actually read the statute today, and so this basically highlights the statute. And so,
Thank you.
You need to go to the room.
Tell.
Can go in my office, Nancy.
any other discussion?
She's not taking no for an answer.
F1 travel reimbursement policy. Again, second reading. This is, I think this has to do with financial state law as well. I think, but I don't know if it's statute, but it's federal statute.
We have to provide mileage.
Yeah, you have to provide mileage, so. And it's well written.
Simple.
Yeah. Administrative report, Christine, moving right along.
First, Anne Marie, she just got here.
Completely, you were invisible to me.
She snuck in behind you.
Yeah.
So I couldn't see her.
And that means that I was somewhat quiet, which is impressive for me.
You what?
I'll lean back.
All right. It is the merry month of May, as Angie's been saying all month. It's been a very busy month, and the weather has not been nice, so it feels like everybody's a little bit cranky, but we're getting close to the end of the year. So I'd just like to start out a little bit of highlights for some of our strategic plan goals. So you heard Nancy mention the prom. There is one picture in the center there. There was a pivot last minute to go inside, and the decorations were pretty beautiful. That doesn't capture it well. We had one of the back panels actually fell. Were you there? No, fell right before the kids walked out. So there were, I think, 3 high school males that came out with ladders and fixed it right away. So they were pretty awesome. So the prom went off without a hitch. Everybody had a great time. We had a play at Windsor this past month. It was Alice in Wonderland, which was pretty awesome. Students did a great job. It was an interesting play to try to follow. Alice in Wonderland,
Yes.
but they did a great job. The picture in the right-hand corner is our older students, and they organized a Green Up Day activity with the younger students, which was really well received and well planned. And I think the younger students really look up to the older students, and it's an opportunity for them to partner together. And then I just had to capture, this is Maria Brown, one of our SEIs at Heartland, and she's been there. I hired her a long time ago, and she is just an amazing human, and she really builds strong relationships with kids and helps impact the culture in our schools. So I just saw her working with a student and wanted to capture that. And we do have really great SEIs across the SU, and we're fortunate to have them help us. Student success and engagement, we had some Albert Bridge students, oops, I didn't switch the slide for you, who attended the 4th and 5th grade state choir concert up at the corner, and there's a picture of them. And they according to Jennifer, I wasn't able to go, but they did a great job and had a great time with a bunch of other students from across the state. We've got students in the right-hand corner at Weathersfield. They're preparing for their Leadership Day, which is coming up, I think this Friday, actually, which the students really plan and facilitate most of the day. And Heartland is going to try one this year at the end of the year as well. Mr. Martes, awarding a student with a monthly award, Pride Award. And those are Heartland kindergartners in the middle, learning all about how the lungs work. And what a great activity their kindergarten teacher provided, showing them how the lungs work. So that was pretty great to see. For communication, we have been working, Larry has been working with Brooke on a draft communication plan. It's really for internal use, but it's in development, should be done by the fall. We were just looking at it recently. It is the end of the year. It is busy time, as I shared. We are in the thick of hiring. We have had pretty good success across the SU in filling positions. This is what we have left to fill. Theater, Miss Warner is leaving us. We are very sad about that. She does have a very long commute, and it's just needs to be closer to home, so. Yeah, Kate has reported that she has some good final candidates, so we're happy about that.
Awesome.
Yeah, Katie has a school psych and 3 support staff members to hire. Middle school science at Weathersfield is an open position, and we have a 6th grade math and science and a middle school counselor at Windsor Middle School. So that's all we have left to hire. We've been onboarding and using our protocols for hiring, which has been really good. Larry reports that the fiscal year rollover and audit prep are underway. He's working with his team to make sure that's all smooth. And we've got our final early release day for professional development on May 23rd. We'll be doing some data dives, looking at our STAR data and seeing how we've progressed and helping us set goals for next year. Staff will have time for some transition meetings between teachers, and the kindergarten team is working on curriculum there. They've been meeting and working with administration second half of the year, really trying to make the curricular programs that we have more play-based. And so we just need to make sure we're doing that consistently with a process. So they've been working on that, which is pretty exciting. Whenever you can make learning through play happen, you do it. It's super impactful, especially at that grade level. I wanted to report that we have received 80% of our title funds. And so we were able to issue the contracts for our 4 interventionists that are paid out of Title I primarily. So we're not sure yet if we're going to receive the additional 20% of the funds. So we're holding off on filling the curriculum and instruction specialist position. So we're hoping those funds come in and we can advertise, but we're just not we're not confident enough to hire somebody without knowing. So.
And is that due to federal instability or?
Yeah, for sure. So just to update you, I did send a letter today. I think you all received it. But H454 came out of Senate Finance Thursday evening. There we do have some superintendents association, the VSBA, superintendents, I think staff, parents that have some concerns with the bill as written. Some of the key concerns are that the bill really underfunds public education, doesn't really address the real cost drivers of the rising costs, healthcare being one of them. We've heard, I think I heard a 23% increase next year. You've heard any different bill? And, you know.
Christine?
Yes.
Christine, sorry. It's Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Just so you know, the VSBIT contract was VSBIT? No, the VHI contract was renegotiated, and it will actually wind up saving money this year.
I did not hear that. That's Friday. That's great. Thank you.
It's supposed to go down to a 3% increase.
Wow. How are they doing that? Do you know? That's incredible.
I don't know.
Guess I shouldn't question it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. I did not know that. Appreciate that. Just some other concerns about the proposed H454. There are deep cuts to education, and the bill looks, it locks future spending to this year's level and applies a limited inflation index that does not account for, well, I guess healthcare is off the table, but other core costs. It will force some districts to make some deep cuts to essential services, educators, support staff, administrators, as well as academic and co-curricular programs. And some taxpayers will face steep increases. So I did lay out in the letter that I think it's on this page, Heartland would be looking at cutting $2 million out of their budget, which decimates their school. I don't even know how that happens.
I don't know how we have a school left.
It's essentially 20 people.
Right?
So,
Yeah, we're the biggest school.
Anyway, their Mount Scottney would be in the current formula, and I heard Friday that the per pupil cost, which was around $14,800, when the bill came out of Senate Finance, they took CTE out of the weights, which will lower that base rate additionally, so it'll be less than 14.8. But it does impact Weathersfield as well, with a funding loss of roughly 170,000 or more. So it also takes local control away from communities to vote on their budgets and replacing that control with centralized state decision-making, which is a concern. And the other major thing that most people are taking issue with is the Senate proposes replacing the House's Skilled and Educationally Experienced Subcommittee with an all-legislator task force to guide school district redesign, which would politicize a process that demands education expertise and community representation. Not having educator voice at the table when you are transforming education and redistricting doesn't seem like a sound decision. So those are the biggies that have been coming out of our meetings. You want call Elizabeth Stefan.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thanks. I would also add that the Senate version of the bill speeds the timeline up to, which is really shoddy.
Yeah.
Speeds the timeline up to implementing everything next year, not next school year, but next calendar year.
Yeah.
Which is a lot to undertake, especially when I watched the Senate Finance Committee's vote on the bill, and not one of them was confident, or there was one person who was confident in the bill, and that was Scott Beck, and that's because he was sort of the mastermind behind the finance part of it, but nobody else was confident in it. They all held their nose, and two people on the committee felt that the version being voted out by the Senate would lay the legislature bare for lawsuits having to do with the big decision.
Yeah. Is Beck one of the legislators who is from an independent school background?
Yes,
Elizabeth?
he's from
Yeah.
St. Johnsbury.
Okay. So there's that as well.
It was very weird. It was weird watching that or there was two meetings, but it was weird watching those two meetings because it was clear that there were two members of the committee, one who has been on the committee for about a dozen years, one who just got to the committee but served on House Education for about 6 years, and neither one of them really had a full understanding of education funding.
Interesting. So what I've heard, and Elizabeth, maybe you know because you're closer to it. I thought Chelsea said there'd be a third vote in the Senate, and then if it passes that vote, it is likely to go to conference committee. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it goes to the Senate floor on Wednesday.
Okay.
And it will 100% go to conference committee if it passes the Senate. It's not.
Okay.
It's not entirely sure that it will pass the Senate, and it's really not entirely sure that anything will come out of it this year.
Okay. Well, if you hear anything, let us know.
Well, I will. I will just say that when it goes to conference committee, which would be on Thursday.
Yep.
That is the time to write as many letters as possible to the legislators who will be on the conference committee, 3 from the House, 3 from the Senate. And because all of the people who would be on that conference committee are really susceptible to public input.
Will you know who those people are on Wednesday?
It'll be the chairs from the education and money committees. So probably the chairs of House and Senate Education, the chair of House Ways and Means, the chair of House Appropriations.
Okay.
And then likewise, the same on the Senate.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Is it better to write letters before it even goes to, like, because this proposal is
there's
Shoddy.
these are two opportunities. One is
Now.
definitely now,
Okay,
before
that's what
Wednesday. And then
And
the
then,
second one, which is equally as important, is
Yeah.
the conference committee. But I'd be glad to tell you, Christine, who's on the conference committee when it's decided.
that would be great.
It's always the same usual suspects, so
Okay.
there won't be any surprises. But if you could then send that out to everybody,
Definitely.
I think that would be helpful.
Okay, I will definitely do that. Okay, just a little bit of PCB information. We've just learned for school scheduled for PCB testing, that was us this summer. After June 2024 that have not tested yet. Future testing will occur in scheduled order as funding becomes available. For initial indoor air quality testing, I've heard there is no money available at this point, so I think we're on hold at the moment. But I'll keep you posted. And then just a couple of federal updates. I'm trying to keep up. So the president did release his fiscal year skinny budget recently. We know that Congress has to review that and then ultimately draft their own appropriations bill, and they need 60 votes to pass. But just I pulled kind of what the impact might be for early childhood and K-12 education. So those are the changes proposed currently. So there's decreases to preschool development grants. Head Start has not changed. Child Care and Development Block Grant hasn't changed. There are increased funds for charter schools, as you can see. Title I's preserved, but we're not sure about Title II, which is where we fund some of our positions. There's a K-12 simplified funding program, which is consolidating 18 programs, but decreases. No funding cuts to IDEA, which is good news, but cuts to English language acquisition and equity assistance centers and migrant education programs, pretty significant decreases. So I will continue to read everything that comes across my desk around the federal updates. Just for you, some important dates. We do have on May 29th at 7 p.m. a webinar. It's going to be led by Laura Pascal. She was our consultant for our inclusivity consultant around our gender inclusivity consultant who's been working with us. She did some surveying and did some interviews, and she is going to share some of that, and she'll have a student with her. And I don't know, Tracy, if you want to say any more about that. I thought Tracy was on this.
She was.
I am. Yeah. Hey. Yeah, I think she won't be sharing as much about the survey findings as she will. She's responding to what she noticed from the community in response. There are a lot of questions that people have about athletics, especially transgender students and athletics. So she has a transgender student who came and did an in-service day for us, who is also an athlete, who is courageous enough to join that webinar with her.
Excellent. So that went out in my newsletter, but we should probably, advertise it widely for next week. 21st of May, there's a high school fine art showcase at 6 p.m., which you're all invited to. And senior night is June 4th in the gymnasium. And then I've listed all the graduations as well. So those are things that are coming up, and there's a lot more going on at the schools, but a lot of it field trips and field days and those types of things. But and that concludes, and we'll stop sharing and turn over to Angie, who has the second part of the admin report tonight. Angie, you can share your screen, right?
Yeah. Just working on it. Working on it. Okay, slideshow. I've been trying to get that pin off the screen, and on my own device, I just had to tap it, so it's whatever the owl. Like I tapped out of the screen completely.
It doesn't show on.
There you go.
Oh,
Okay. Just wanted to give you a little brief synopsis of the work that was done this year, and in particular focusing on the curriculum work with grade level teams and some unified arts teacher work that we've done. So with K-5, this also gives you a sense of how our meetings were. We repeat data meetings 3 times a year. That's what we use our early release days for. They had an instructional planning on part of those days. We had 18 folks take part in the LGAP additive reasoning workshop that Patty Gray led. It was 4 days, and they managed to do that between October and December. It was fantastic. That was with K-5 teachers. Grade alike groups worked on, K-5 for CKLA and K-8 for math reviewing and planning on the November day. That was a full day in service. We had self-directed learning peppered into a few extra days there. That is something that I instilled with my team in, I think I looked back at the records, it was 2019 was our first self-directed learning day. DEI day was the marvelous day that Tracy and her team planned for us, and all staff participated in that. And Christine mentioned kindergarten looking at play-based instructional strategies, and they're piloting a unit this spring to replace a CKLA unit. And we're looking at how to make sure that the objectives that are part of the program are indeed addressed in the play-based learning unit. They're actually using a unit that was designed several years ago when teachers were encouraged to create universal interdisciplinary units over the summer. 6-8. Again, there's a lot of overlap here. Oops, the OGAP additive reasoning shouldn't be up there. They worked on curriculum maps, proficiencies, and assessments in the November in-service, which was designed to give them a heads up of what is to come for FY26. And then, of course, the self-directed learning and the DEI day, it's the same. Our 9-12 folks worked on their proficiency-based learning. I think the performance-based system was a day that the teams were given to work on their own, on their performance-based assessments. And then they did March intensive planning during the March early release. That wasn't supposed to be 6-8. Did I go backward? So I had an extra slide in there. This slide just kind of shows you some of the things that various members of our related arts or unified arts teams have been doing during in-service time. The chronic absentee project is the wellness team is looking at that. And one of the things I think they're moving forward with, Christine, is a add-on to Power School to help help improve communication for students who are challenged with chronic absenteeism.
They also are using some of their EPSDT funds to pay small stipends to staff members who are interested in being engagement coaches. So there'll be people that'll help work with families of students who are really struggling with absenteeism. So maybe on that.
Our school counselors have been twice a year. We give our social emotional screener a panorama screener, which we are no longer going to keep for next year because their prices, their model changed, which is what happened with another software program. And then the price increases dramatically. And we think that there could be a better tool out there. They've also looked at SEL curriculum, social emotional learning curriculum. The nurses come together in the fall to really support each other in that state report writing, and their SNAP is the program that they use to gather their student data. And then they also were working, many of them were involved in the chronic absenteeism project, so they used that time to do that.
The library media specialist, I think we're going to have a STEAM program in some version of a STEAM program in every school, and they supported each other in that work. Visual arts teachers requested a PowerSchool grading workshop. There was the district concert planning usually takes a few extra days for our music teachers, and of course they all had self-directed learning and participated in the DEI day. Oopsie, what am I doing? I hit the wrong button. Okay, Title I comparability. What it is, an annual report that we submit to the Agency of Education. It is submitted by November 1st. And the reason that they have it submitted then is so that if you have to make any corrections or adjustments for the remainder of that school year because you're not within the comparability ratios, then you can do so. It ensures that Title I dollars are used to supplement, not supplant. We want our Title I dollars to add to our programs, not take place of dollars that they would normally get. If we are comparable, then our dollars that are local, state and local funds are equitably or comparably distributed. It's based on a calculation that could look at grade span by grade span. So if we had 3 K-5 schools, we could look at that. We do look at grade span by grade span because we look at K-8, K-8, and then 9-12 is a separate span, and or it could be looked at by school basis. It just depends. And you can, I'm going to show you the worksheet that I submitted last year, and they want you to be able to satisfy this. So they give you a couple different options for how to calculate that number. Fortunately, we didn't have to explore those other options because our grade span by grade span worked for us. And it simply answers the question, are the resources comparable across the LEA in all schools? Well, you may be wondering, what are those, what are the things that they're looking at? So we report in the fall, and then the data is collected at the same time. So if I'm preparing the report in October, I want to collect all the student enrollment data and the staff FTE on the same date. So I'm comparing what staffing we had on that date to the number of students that we had on that date. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the school that has less than 100 students is excluded from the report. Okay, so this slide has a lot of text on it, but I wanted you to understand what staff are included. So it's only staff positions that are funded with state and local funds. It's only those staff members who have responsibilities for directly supporting instruction at the school level. And the FTE, or the full-time equivalent, is adjusted for instructional staff who are shared across buildings. So down in the little print below, and I'll just read some of these. These are teachers like general education classroom teachers, unified arts teachers, world language teachers, library media specialists, school-based instructional coaches, principals, assistant principals, school counselors with instructional responsibilities, instructional or classroom paras who are non-special education funded, because I want to remind you that special education funds are federal dollars, and we do not need to include them in our comparability report. Our instructional coaches are also Title I funded, so they would not be included in as the staffing, the instructional staff for this report. Excluding staff who are paid with federal funds, special education staff, English learner teachers, behavioral specialists, Title I interventionists, our school psychologists, the custodial staff, maintenance staff, admin assistants, food services staff, and nurses. Some of our nurses may or may not have instructional responsibilities. So if they had a portion of their job that was instructional responsibility, you would probably, like some do the health, do instruction for the health standards. So we would probably have to include that.
So let me summarize this really quick from what I'm hearing. Really, this policy is to make sure that non-Title I funds are equivalent.
Yeah,
Okay.
Basically,
Because
essentially, yes.
that
For
policy-
instruction,
For
for supporting
instruction, right.
instruction.
But the issue I have is that policy doesn't make it clear.
Okay,
Because when you read the policy, it reads as if they're talking about Title I funds are equivalent between buildings. That's what it reads as.
so you
And
need,
so this makes sense.
okay,
The policy doesn't make sense.
good. So I'm glad it's providing some clarity.
Yes, thank you.
So the calculation is done, and I'll demonstrate how the sheet works in a second. You enter the school data on the same date. You take those numbers from the same date. I get the data from Tina Canfield, our HR person. The table automatically pulls information from one tab to the tab that does the comparability ratio. And again, ABS is exempt because they have fewer than 100 students. So the two bullets represent the two different ways that we could look at it. And then there are some other things you can do too. So we're sort of a combination of bullet 1 and bullet 2 because if the LEA includes both Title I and non-Title I schools, which we do, excuse me, my phone is ringing. Sorry about that. Each school must have a ratio that is less than or equal to 110% of the non-title schools. But our non-Title I school has fewer than 100 students. So in essence, we are really using the top bullet because all our Title I schools, the LEA uses the schools that are compared are all Title I schools. So I wanted to share with you the sheet that I use, and I have a hard copy here, so you can look at the numbers a little bit easier. And I am going to.
Yeah, we get one.
Let me shrink that a little bit. And I apologize for those who are viewing this on the screen. It's probably very small. This is just the instructions. Then on this tab and this tab is not shown on the sheet that I handed out. This tab is just where I put in our information, our student enrollment, the local staff. Let me see if I can't blow this up a little bit for you so you can see. Okay, so student enrollment, and then the instructional staff. And so you can see here that we have parts of people. We don't literally have parts of people. It's just their full-time equivalent is split up, okay? Then these numbers, which you can see that our ABS Albert Bridge School is down here because they're excluded. And then these numbers come onto this sheet and they determine the comparability, okay? So to just kind of play with it a little bit, I think this helped me to understand it a little bit better. What if our student enrollment suddenly goes up and we don't have any changes in staff? So say we get an influx of 20 students at Heartland, then our student staff ratio increases. We want that student staff ratio to be between 90 and 110%. So you can see how down here, it's Heartland goes to, Heartland now the student staff ratio is 8.06, and that is smack in the middle of 90% and 110%. Let me undo that. Now say, for example, we decide to put a new program in and we hire 4 more staff people. So we'd be at 35. And then you can see how that changes, but not just Heartland. That change also impacts Wethersfield. So you can see how, knowing this at the beginning of the year, we would want to make sure that we could put in adjustments if that were the case. They didn't have this slick tool before last year. So I don't really know how accurate our comparability report was before last year. We did the best we could, but this is the tool we use. Does anybody have any questions about how that works?
No? Okay.
Okay.
Makes sense now?
Yeah, it makes sense now. I think policy needs a sentence.
Policy doesn't make sense.
This
makes sense.
Need a big set policy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think that clarifying in the policy what funding has to be comparable.
Mhm.
Okay. And it should only take a sentence or two.
And you might also want to say, clarify that it's
It's,
instructional staff.
Yeah.
Who are only funded with state and local funds.
right.
And that helps us not to panic.
And
Right.
even to clarify that it doesn't include special ed staff. Yeah. Yes?
I'm just trying to get a sentence. So you want to clarify which staff are involved in the report?
Yes. No, in the policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Staff.
And in the report. So that's kind of right there.
So Angie, you and I can work on that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put it on our list. That was helpful though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else, Angie?
Sorry, I didn't think about it last time for April. No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Well, it's amazing how when you know what you're talking about, the assumption is that everyone kind of knows what they're talking about.
Right.
And I do that all the time. You're like,
Right.
but then when you explain it so simply, it's like, ah. So
There is an
thank you.
assurance that in the comparability report, they talk about the assurance that we have a policy.
Right.
That ensures comparability.
Right, and the simple fact of it is that they want to make sure that if you're taking Title I funds, you're not using that Title I funds for instructional spending that should come from state and local governments. Correct. Yeah. Okay. Algebra 1 for 8th grade students.
How about
Did we
animal dissection?
We went over those. Angie just talked about that one in the report.
Yeah, but,
Katie is not
okay,
available today.
okay.
I'm not 100% sure this needs a motion
I think
or,
it does,
okay,
according to
because it was
Angie.
something that we voted on SU-wide.
I don't remember if we voted on it SU-wide, but it was definitely an SU program. So
A decision was made by the board.
a decision was
Right.
made to support it. And then the member districts also had to support, I
Right.
think that first year that, like the member districts helped pay transportation. Do you remember if transportation
I
was
still
billed
do.
to the schools?
They still do.
Or if it was a
Yeah.
shared expense, or
It's at
maybe
the
SU
it's
paid
at the
it that
SU.
first year?
Transportation's at the SU.
It gets billed back in the.
Yeah.
Well, let's
So-
open it up for discussion and maybe that'll give me a clearer idea of what the motion should be.
Yeah, what is, like, what are
What's
we,
the question?
what's
Well,
the question? What? I mean, I know we
question-
talked about it in our districts,
Yeah.
but what would we potentially even be voting on right now?
To just continue, the funding for transportation and the funding SU-wide for a joint algebra,
Algebra 8 program.
right,
for,
algebra program.
yeah.
It's not that we're changing anything, we're just saying, oh, we're not gonna do this anymore.
And
At
that
the
is
end,
at
that
the
is
high,
changing
that's at the high school.
It is at the high
Yeah.
school, and there
We've
are,
been doing that for a couple of years.
5 years, I think.
5 years, yeah.
There are schools, high schools that issue a high school credit. If the class is taken at Windsor High School, it has to be taught by a high school teacher in a accredited high school. Some high schools don't, it just depends. But the benefit being the kids go into high school already having that algebra credit, which allows them to take additional higher math classes in their high school career. I think it was presented at the last Weathersfield board meeting. So some of the concerns that have arisen from the program, the students are bused to Windsor in the morning or they're dropped off. And we've worked really hard to coordinate our schedules across the SU. So math is the first period of the day for our 8th graders. So the students that are at Windsor are missing 8th grade math. And there are some concerns that when you miss 8th grade math, you're missing some core math components that are important that you don't cover in algebra. So that has been brought up. But the kids also miss some advisory opportunities. They typically miss the monthly assemblies because those happen usually right at the beginning of the day and they're not in the school. So it was brought up from there. Ryan brought it to his board. They were in support of offering algebra to students who would like it during an elective time using VTBLC, which is an online math program, pretty much self-directed. There's some support, but it's pretty self-directed. Heartland, it was brought up at the last meeting. Heather Venata was there. She's a high school math teacher at Woodstock. Oh, she's here. Oh, good, Heather, I didn't see you. And I know there were some concerns, and I know that she and Lindsay met and talked about how it could look, how we could support our students. So Heather, if you want, and Lindsay, if you want to share your thoughts, I think that would be helpful.
Is Lindsay here? Or is it just me?
It's the Heather Show.
It's the Heather Show. Okay. Hi, everyone. So Lindsay and I and Michael Schaefer had a very long conversation about what this could look like. And it really comes down to a few things. We talked about sort of the need for if, 8th grade students need an algebra class. And also we had the conversation about like scheduling. And so it seems like in Heartland, what would make this really difficult is the scheduling of kids. And what I mean, like, it seems like it's really hard to have kids take algebra at Heartland due to scheduling.
Because staffing.
And staffing, like it seems like that seems to be the hard part. And so what we came up with as a potential plan is that if Windsor did stick with the Algebra 1, then students could do Algebra 1 at Windsor, but then during their 30 minutes of, I don't know what they call it, like their choice time or electives, I guess, could take online grade 8 mathematics so that they weren't missing out on that piece, because there's a lot of content in 8th grade math that you miss out on if your Algebra 1 class is not a combination grade 8 algebra. And so, like, I know at Woodstock, kids who take grade 8 algebra, they're doing both at the same time. And it's a lot, but they are being taught both standards at the same time. So while I would love to just have Heartland have their own sort of algebra, like grade 8 algebra class, it seems like at this moment, at least for next year, I don't know if we can do it, because between staffing and scheduling, it seems a little impossible.
And I want to speak up, but Heather's not speaking for the Heartland board. She's talking as an individual right now, because I'm hearing this for the first time.
Yeah.
So, and I think there are other board members that are concerned that Heartland has not had a follow-up conversation about this. Because there are board members that felt pretty strongly that kids should continue to have access to algebra.
I think that's what she's saying, though.
Yeah, so, I mean, but it would still take an agreement that.
Yeah.
Right.
But we haven't had that discussion at our board level yet.
No, we haven't.
So I don't think it's fair for the three of us to come and vote on something when our board hasn't even made a decision as a board.
No, that wasn't what this was all about. I was just recapping my meeting with Lindsay Perkins to say, like, like at this time, we don't have enough information to go forward. We were waiting for because that's what I don't know what this vote is. Is this vote for you know, for.
No,
for-
we're not gonna have a vote.
Okay.
Let's be
Okay.
clear. We're not gonna have a
Okay.
vote.
Perfect, okay.
Really, I thinking from the Windsor perspective, because this impacts the Windsor students as well. I think the path forward would be to have all the teachers involved in 8th grade math from all the 3 districts get together and discuss what could be created. I mean, I understand that transportation, I was presented with it as that, transportation is a real issue. It takes a lot of time, which is absolutely true. But at the same time, I also agree with the fact that students who take algebra as 8th graders are missing out on some core skills that are presented in 8th grade math. But there should be some sort of way to create a SU program that either supports 8th grade math with an Algebra 1 credit, kids who can do that, and even possibly looking at funding to expand algebra into the summer somewhat. To have, a 2-week class or whatever it would involve, as well as some independent studies. But I think that's up to the math professionals to have a discussion.
I like that plan.
So in terms of, and we can do that. Typically the way we've run it, we've used different measures to see if kids were ready. And we're using STAR testing. When we used STAR testing last year, we plan to use STAR testing again this year. And I guess, Angie's office has been the one that's coordinated and communicated with families and parents and got permission. So how do you want us to proceed? It's just late in the game.
Yeah.
Well, it's a school, and like
Yeah.
getting the teachers together to make this decision. I
It
mean,
has implications to
Yeah.
Kate.
it has
Just right there.
implications to Kate and her schedule because she's
Yeah.
holding a spot. Go ahead, Kate. I think you raised your hand.
No, that's what I was gonna say is we're happy here always to share our resources with everyone in the district, whether it be the field or the theater, or in this case, algebra. The feedback that I'm getting from parents is mixed. One, and as a parent of an 8th grader, I understand their concerns that they're missing out the transportation piece. They're missing out on large pieces of what feels really important to their 8th grade year, and I get that. I just want to be clear that Windsor didn't start this discussion. We're always happy to host, but it does. We already have to work around our schedule with 2 other schools within our building. So it is late in the game to make major changes that would impact our schedule. So we're always willing to come to the table and happy to help, but the impact of scheduling is great. So it would need to be a decision rather quickly.
So, well, I hear what you're saying, Kate, and I agree with you. It is quite late in the game. At the same time, I would encourage having those discussions, even though it may not impact next year.
So do we proceed as we have to see who wants to participate or who can participate this year while we make the decision about next year?
I think that makes the most sense because Wethersfield hasn't fully discussed it. Heartland hasn't fully discussed it.
Wethersfield has discussed it.
Okay.
And they have granted permission for Brian
Okay.
BTVLC, which I think
Okay.
is okay either way, right? We have it available for those that
Right.
want to partake, but there's their hand up, so.
Anne Marie?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that yes, we had fully discussed it at Wethersfield, and we feel like we've come up with a really good solution where our 8th graders will have the opportunity to have both 8th grade math and Algebra 1.
And it's okay if they do that and we still offer
Yeah.
the program to Heartland students at this point?
I think that's up to Heartland.
Yeah, I mean,
until we discuss it further.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll note just for the people in the room, this is our micro class that's coming through. We only have 15 kids in the entire class, maybe 16.
Yeah.
And so the number of kids that we're going to be sending to algebra is going to be equally tiny.
Lindsay thinks 4 or 5.
Yeah, so it may, like, to speak to Kate, it may make sense to just fold them in with another class that's already happening, especially if we're not going to be sharing a class with others.
Yeah, that's good to know, because what had happened is that it grew so big that we had to provide 2 separate sections, which kind of defeated the purpose of meeting each other, because the Windsor kids stayed with Windsor and the Heartland and Weathersfield went together. So that is good to know. 4 or 5 is easy to fold into a mix.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And then in the interim, we'll get the math teachers together and come up with a plan.
I mean, it really makes sense to kind of look at this globally.
Yeah.
And that takes time. You can't, it's May.
I mean, there's been, over the years, there's been mixed information coming out about whether or not high schools are honoring the high school credit. And David Baker was adamant that if a student had a high school transcript that shows that they had passed that class, that it should count as one of their math. It'd be like any other student transferring into high school, and it would count as a math credit. And we've heard mixed feedback that is not happening in all the schools of our receiving students. So I would encourage the committee that's working on this to really get some straight answers on that.
Lindsay did that for the Heartland meeting. So Hartford gives them a high school credit. Hanover does not. Woodstock does not. They give them.
They put them in the
They put them in the next class.
They don't give them
but they don't give them the high school credit.
So they still have to do 4 credits. So it's a high
And
school.
Windsor and Heartland, Hartford do.
Yeah, I don't think the credit is a big motivator. I think the schedule of high school math, it allows them to be able to take upper level math classes as a senior. Well, allows them to take upper level classes as a freshman, sophomore, and so forth. It's really difficult to get to calculus if you start at Algebra 1 as a freshman.
Right.
And
That's a double up of math, right?
I'll
you have to double do it.
speak for the engineers. If you don't get to calculus in high school, you're behind as a
Yes.
freshman.
Yeah.
Because you already have to take 4 to 5 classes per term as an engineer.
Yeah.
And so now you're adding another one, and it just snowballs in a really ugly way.
Amy? I'm sorry, Anne Marie.
Yeah, it's also when they can take it as an 8th grader, it provides an opportunity if the student is a math student that they can go on and take math at Dartmouth their senior year.
Anne Marie?
Yeah, sorry, must have double clicked. I just wanted to say that, as someone who had 2 students that did the advanced math, and one actually did way more than math 1 before 9th grade, but algebra 1, but the credits didn't matter at all. I mean, if they're into math and they're going to be an engineer, they're going to get way more than 4 credits of math through their high school years anyway. 1 more credit matters not. I think Cooper ended up with like 8 math credits, and Daxton already has like 7 math credits. They don't need that extra credit.
Okay.
Okay, I think we got a plan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hires.
Yes, I am speaking for Katie. She would have been here tonight, but had a family emergency that she had to handle. So she is bringing Matt Bean to be the 5-6 Windsor special educator. Matt comes with some experience. He's currently in Claremont as a special educator and was a paraprofessional prior to that for I think 7 or 8 years, if I recall. So he's very excited to come to Windsor. He had options and he chose us, so I think that is awesome. So that's one. The next is Michelle Springer. She is going to work in the ACE program. So we are very, very, very thrilled to have a second full-time teacher in the ACE program. That has been something we've been trying to fill for the past at least 3 and maybe 4 years. So we do have an amazing teacher that's been developing and running the program. That's Amanda Clark. She had part-time help this year, but the person that's helping her, Frank, he retired but came in to help us develop the community outreach part of the program. But he is actually really retiring and he's hiking the Long Trail. So we were able to hire or bring Michelle Springer to you tonight for approval. She will be full-time, which is what the program needs, so classroom needs. So excited about that. And then the third person is Emily Shangle. She is going to be an OT for us. And she is moving here, I think from outside of Philadelphia. I met with her. She's moving here. She's very excited to come to Windsor. She wants to be in the community with her partner. And so we feel very fortunate to have these special education professionals bring to you tonight.
Okay. I will take a motion to hire
Matt Bean, Michelle Springer, and Emily Shangle.
for the Windsor Southeast Special Ed Staffing Department.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Davis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
All right. Nicole?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Anne Marie?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Exciting.
Do we have a need for executive session?
Are you gonna do those last two policies that you skipped over?
We did those.
We did, I
We
think.
did.
You might have been on the.
You are, yeah.
You did them that fast.
Yeah. Well,
Thank
the Title I was a punt, which was a very good choice.
What did you
Because
decide
now I
about the
understand it.
dissection?
And the animal dissection, there was no discussion, and travel reimbursement, there was no discussion. So,
Perfect.
okay, I
you.
will take a motion to conclude the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Board meeting.
I'll move. Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you very much.
When is our retreat scheduled for?
August 18th.
August 18th.
Thank you.
So we have a regular meeting next month.
Thank you.
No meeting in July.
No.
And August.